So our next speaker is Martin White. Martin White is a musician. He has performed regularly with Robin Ince and was the co-founder of Karaoke Circus. He heads the Mystery Fax Machine Orchestra and co-wrote the musical Sister Psycho with Danielle Ward, which was nominated for a Chortle Award. Please welcome Martin White.
You want this, or are you going to use this? Good morning. Thank you for having me, James. I'm going to continue the German theme that James set up. In March 2010, I undertook a journey from London to Berlin via Paris. Around this time, a film had been released in the cinemas, a children's film called Nanny McPhee and the Big Bang. Are you aware of it? It was a sequel to a 2005 film called Nanny McPhee, in which Emma Thompson plays a children's governess with magical powers. As I departed from St Pancras, there were posters all around the station advertising the film, Nanny McPhee and the Big Bang. When I arrived in Paris, got off the train at Gare du Nord, there were posters around for the same film, only there for the benefit of French-speaking audiences. The film was called Nanny McPhee et le Big Bang. Okay, now we're laughing. Yeah, but, perhaps that's unimaginative, but, they've done justice to the spirit of the original. Of course, I'm chuckling on the train as I get on the next train to Berlin, the overnight train to Berlin Hauptbahnhof, thinking when I get to Berlin, there's going to be posters for Nanny McPhee und das Big Bang. Arrived in Berlin Hauptbahnhof the next morning, got off the train, there's a poster for... I don't know how many German speakers there are here, but that translates as, a magical nanny has a further adventure. What it's done is it's robbed the Nanny McPhee and the Big Bang. Perhaps it's not the most compelling title for a film, but there's an element of a mystery. Who is Nanny McPhee? What is the Big Bang? The German title answers both of those questions before we've even got into the cinema. Who is Nanny McPhee? A magical nanny. What is the Big Bang? It is her new adventure. And the Germans have been I grew up in Germany. They're terrible for this. Constant source of amusement for me, watching German television or going to the cinema in Germany and seeing what they would call a film. Right, Airplane. Now, Airplane is actually a surprisingly opaque title for a film. I guess we know it's about an aeroplane. Obviously, the poster tells us this is going to be an amusing film. But, Airplane, it could be, I guess the funny spelling, maybe the exclamation mark, tells us that perhaps we're in for an unusual take on the disaster movie genre. When this was released in Germany, it was called The Unbelievable Journey in a Crazy Aeroplane. Again, robbing the film of whatever mystery it may have had. The title Airplane credits us with the ability to where are my notes? It credits us. I was getting to the clever bit and I've forgotten what it was. It credits us not to take the title at face value. That's the important part there. The Unbelievable Journey in a Crazy Aeroplane, on the other hand, takes absolutely no risk. So the Germans are not risking misleading someone into seeing a film that might not be unbelievable. They're saying it's unbelievable. These events could not happen in real life. They are spelling it out for us. And you might think back to the Weimar Republic playwright Bertolt Brecht, who warned against the dangers of what he called culinary theatre that spoon-fed answers and emotions to its audience without inviting them to analyse them critically. There are loads of examples like this. Annie Hall. And really, you can sort of figure it out by saying, what's the film about? Annie Hall isn't about Annie Hall, is it? Annie Hall is the object of the film. She's not the subject of the film. Who's seen Annie Hall? What's it about? It's obviously about Woody Allen, like all Woody Allen films. It's about a neurotic who lives in a city. What did the Germans call it? The city neurotic. This is what it was called when it was released in Germany. The urban neurotic. The neurotic man who is a resident of a built-up area. That's sort of That's what the film was called. Smokey and the Bandit, when it was released in Germany, was called A Crafty Rascal. Again, Smokey and the Bandit, when you think about it, Smokey and the Bandit, that could be about anything. That could be about literally anything. Who's Smokey? Who's the bandit? Crafty rascals. He is a crafty rascal. Of course, the sequel, A Crafty Rascal is on the road once more. Smokey and the Bandit 2 there. This is one, right? The cable guy. Remember that? Now, this is an interesting one. Again, you know, we're trusted. We're entrusted with, I guess, what you might call a dialectic, where we have the cable guy, which is an innocuous title for a film. You know, it could be just about a man installing cable television in people's houses, but no, we can see he's pulling a scary face, and there's lightning and everything like that. You know, you've got the contradiction of form and context. It's a dialectic. Again, we're coming back to Brecht, Hegel. You know, we're coming back to that. This idea that we're being trusted to form our own conclusion, to engage with something intellectually. You've got the form, the content. You've got here, so you've got the cable guy. The contradiction between the cable guy and the synopsis, the thesis, the antithesis, and the change. I guess he's an annoying man. That's what the film was called in Germany. The Annoying Man. I kid you not. It was called The Annoying Man. That could be any Jim Carrey film. He always plays an annoying man. This basically goes back to to Hitler, depicted here by Mr. Bronson from Grange Hill in the film Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Hitler, as part of his attempt to cleanse Germany, also cleansed it of all foreign words. So, you know, like the word they had for diarrhea, which would have been a sort of medical term, just became, they called it Durchfall, and it's still called that to this day, which just means fall through. That's what diarrhea is called in German. The German word Durchfall, it means fall through. And so what Hitler did is he took all of the loan words and the foreign words out of German and turned into very prosaic combinations of existing German words. And so, I guess in a tenuous way, that sort of explains what's going on with the German film titles. He was trying to anti-intellectualize everything, take out anything that might be confusing. And also it's important to remember that the Germans are not doing this because they have no other choice. You could call a film Nanny McPhee and Das Big Bang. You could call a film Flugzeug or something like that. You know, you could do that, but they choose not to. Now, here's a clip from the film Mary Poppins. And this is, I'm using this to demonstrate the idea, you know, there's a misconception that you can't translate a joke. People think like, oh no, the Germans can't, you know, they can't do a joke because the verb comes at the end and things like that. But I'm going to demonstrate this. How do I click on this so it plays? Can you do that, Natassia?
Would you like to hear a perfectly marvelous joke? A real snapper.
Joke? Snapper?
Yes. There are these two wonderful young people, Jane and Michael, and they meet one day on the street, and Jane says to Michael, I know a man with a wooden leg named Smith. And Michael says, really? What's the name of his other leg?
Right? That's a decent joke. You know, there's a sort of polite chuckle around there, but we understand why it's a joke. Now, this, using Chomsky's system of transformational grammar and syntactic structures, we can actually break this down. I don't know if there's any linguistic theorists in the room, but this is how you would break it down. Now, this is the intended meaning of the I know a man with a wooden leg named Smith, where we can see a man named Smith, you know, with a wooden leg as a kind of optional extra part of the sentence. At the end of the day, what you're saying is I know a man named Smith. But what the person listening to it, the stupid person who's misunderstanding it, possibly intentionally for comic effect, is saying, I know a man with a wooden leg named Smith, and the wooden leg named Smith is grouped together as its own syntactic unit within that statement. So here we go. So what you can see is that you could do this in German. You could say, Ich kenne einen Mann mit einem Holzbein namens Schmidt. Right? And the essence of the joke is the ambiguity. And what you can do is you can plug this, and can we see the German version of it?
Oh, Frechheit, da fällt mir ein wunderbarer Witz ein. Ein ausgesprochener Knüller.
Ein Knüller? Ein Witz?
Ja, meine beiden reizenden Kinder, Jane und Michael, treffen sich eines Tages auf der Straße. Jane sagt zu Michael, ich kenne einen Mann, der Hieronymus Krauskopf heißt. Michael fragt, und weiter? Dieser Krauskopf hat eine riesige Glatze.
In the German version, the joke was, I know a man whose name is Mr. Hairyhead, and he is completely bald. They could have used the original English joke. They could have just plugged the German words in, and it would still have been funny. The ambiguity, the essence of the humor would have been preserved. But no, the Germans deliberately chose... It's not even a joke, really. It's the kind of thing, it would maybe be funny if it were true. You know, if there really was a man called Mr. Hairyhead. If this man was called Mr. Hairyhead, and he was completely bald, that might be funny. But then, if this man was called Mr. Hairyhead, that would also be funny. The funny part is that anyone has the surname Hairyhead. I guess I've sort of come to the end here, really. I'm going to say that I blame Hitler for this, and don't let Hitler get in. Vote. Goodbye.